Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Rivalry. Imaad and Anchit are back to discuss the talking points from United and Arsenal's latest fixtures. As always, we will start with Arsenal against Newcastle. So, Imaad, what did you think of that 3-0 win?
Yeah, overall, obviously happy with the win. Another clean sheet. Um, I didn't think that we were going to end up with 3 points after that shocking first half. It was just, that first half was completely dead. It's like everything that we've been complaining about as Arsenal fans for the last
Hmm.
few months. Just like in terms of there was just nothing going forward. And like the minute we got to the final third, we just didn't know what to do. Um, just a lack of intensity. And then I don't know, it was just one moment when Newcastle pushed men forward at the beginning of the second half, and Thomas Partey like released the ball quickly and Aubameyang into space, and that's a position we haven't seen Aubameyang in for so long. Like running into space with the ball.
I didn't actually see the goal. Was he playing through the middle or was he playing through the
No, he
left?
was still playing out
Aubameyang.
on the left, but Newcastle just pushed a lot of men forward, and then we just released Partey, just released the ball really quickly to Aubameyang, and then he was basically one on one with the defender,
Hmm.
and he was just running at him, and had the defender running back towards goal, and that's when Aubameyang is just at his most dangerous. When he's running
Hmm.
into space with the ball at his feet, or when you're playing the ball in front of him.
Right.
So we haven't seen Aubameyang get into those positions at all.
Right.
Because
Right.
teams just sit back against us and we're supposed to break them down. But I guess
There's no
that was the
spacing
break we
behind.
needed. Yeah, that was the break we needed. Once we got that first goal, I didn't really see us conceding, and then the minute Newcastle had to push forward, then that's when things would really open up for us. But the second goal was all down to Smith Rowe again.
So yeah,
He's been a revelation.
talking about Smith Rowe here, I think there's the pundits have now finally noticed as well that Smith Rowe could really turn into a big player for Arsenal in the years to come. So tell us a little bit more about him. What type of player is he? I know he's a
He
number
just
10.
looks. He was actually like he could before he came back into the team. He would play anywhere across the front line. Sometimes on the right, sometimes on the left. But we just needed a number 10 so badly that we've had to slot him in there.
Mm,
What I like about him is he can play on the half turn. He can receive the ball and he can turn immediately. He's dynamic. He's got a low center of gravity. He doesn't need to play the ball back every time he receives it. He can receive
mm.
the ball in the half turn and immediately he can run at the defense.
Right,
That's something
right.
we just don't have. If you look at there's so many players out there who can do that. Your Jack Grealishes and other players
Right.
like that. He's of that similar mold in terms of. I don't think he's half as good of a ball carrier as Jack Grealish in terms of
Mm.
his
Who's
control and
excellent. Yeah.
everything. But he's definitely got. And he's also very hungry. He's tracks back and he really makes an effort to. He chases down like tracks like. He presses defenders. So it's good to see. Him coming through, but the overall problems at the club are just deeper right now. I feel in terms of where we're going. Where I feel like Arsenal fans are at a crossroads with Arteta.
Before
Don't
you
really
move
know.
on, before we move on to Arteta, sorry, just jumping back to that Smith Rowe. So you mentioned, like, I know you've needed a number 10 and a creative midfielder for a long time now. So would you say that Smith Rowe could be that person in the future, or do you think you definitely need to sign someone?
He definitely could be that player in the future, but we just don't have that kind of time. I feel to wait for him to kind of develop into that finished article that we need him to be. I'm not saying we need a number 10 per se, but we definitely need a player in midfield who can receive the ball and who can, beat a couple of men and really drive at defenses with the ball.
Mm,
We need a ball carrier essentially. Xhaka's just not that player. He's not
mm,
mobile, he's not dynamic, he doesn't know how to move the ball quickly.
right,
So like
right.
an Awa would be ideal. We still need that kind of player who would, ideally not play in as a number 10. We'd probably be playing a 4-3-3, and that's probably what Arteta wants to go with long term. What
Mm,
Klopp plays, what Pep plays.
mm.
That 4-3-3, and you need a midfielder who can
Who's
carry the
creative,
ball in that
yeah,
four
and
three three. And if you want to play a 4-2-3-1, you can. Awa's the type of player you can stick into the number 10 position as well.
right.
So I definitely we need to invest in someone like a world class midfielder, central midfielder who can like who could also play as a number 10, definitely. So I don't
Right.
think Smith Rowe is the answer to all our problems right now.
Right. And so, yeah, so now the next question is like a month ago, right? Month and a half ago, I think Arteta was just, it was one defeat after another, and you couldn't see where the next win would come from. But Arsenal have had a real uptick in form in the past few weeks. Past couple of weeks, I didn't see it coming, honestly, but I'm very surprised that it's happened. So, what do you think of Arteta now?
I'm going to stick by what I said. I'm not his biggest fan still. I mean, he's still got a lot to do. I mean, the fact that we're in this position and
Mm,
it's already Jan. I mean, why? I mean, we're basically salvaging a season that's dead, and
mm,
he is a lot to like. I mean, he is like very culpable in terms of his decisions and why we're in this position right now, and the
right.
fact that we've played such pathetic football. I mean, in terms of the fact that the enjoyment factor isn't really there with Arsenal anymore. Like I personally, even that win against Newcastle, I mean, it was just. I mean, it's not like back in the day when we used to pepper teams at the Emirates, and we're
Mm.
battering them from the first minute to the last minute. We're keeping possession and we're
Chances
quick
are hard
passes
to
in
come
in
by
a,
now,
quick passes
basically.
in and around the box. I mean, so I mean, definitely a lot needs to be done from Arteta's perspective for him to still have me completely sold on what his vision is in terms of what he's trying to implement here.
Mm,
Mm, I definitely think like something like winning the Europa League would be a big plus in his factor. I mean, if he can get us a trophy this season, because the league's
mm,
done. Um,
right.
so, but I mean, definitely, yeah. I mean, we kept 5 clean sheets in a row in all competitions. It's the first time we've done that since 2009. So definitely positives in terms of defensively. We've never been used to seeing Arsenal this defensively solid in the past.
Mm,
So that's a breath of fresh air, I guess. But
right,
I mean,
right.
as a football fan, like you don't want to see your team put in a solid defensive performance every week. I mean, that's not what you pay money to watch if you're going to the stadium.
Right.
You want to see your team
100%.
on the front foot. I mean, you want to see them
Especially
playing
the big
positive, attacking
clubs.
football. Exactly, especially with the big. I mean, you have big name players at Arsenal as well.
Hmm.
So for them, I mean, I guess now we've got a massive game coming up. I mean, not our FA Cup game, our league game against Southampton away.
Right. That'll be a
Massive. I
real
mean, that'll
test.
be a big. I mean, that'll be a big test for Arteta, like to see. I mean, we've done well in these relatively easier games over the
I
last few
mean,
weeks, and
to be completely honest with you, Newcastle are in terrible form. You see some of their fans, they are absolutely furious with Steve Bruce. Your other big win came against West Brom, Chelsea, and Chelsea as well. Okay, that was the big team you beat, but they're also doing really badly at the minute. So I think now you're going to face a couple of informed, like slightly teams that have slightly better form, and let's see how he performs there. And
yeah,
then
exactly. This is the big test, and I guess a final verdict on Arteta. I mean, will have to be given at the end of the season, but it's
right.
obviously I mean, if he can somehow salvage this and get us even into the mix for top four, and we're competing for top four. I mean, because if you look at it, we're only 2 points off Chelsea. I mean, United are what we're top of the league before Leicester won. We're only
Hmm.
10 points off United. I mean, that shows you. I mean, that's not. I mean,
It's a
in
very
a normal
compressed.
season, you would be 25 points of the league leaders. Like right now,
Mm-hmm.
if this was Liverpool, if Liverpool were as good as they were last year, or we're talking about City from the year before, Arsenal would be 25, 30 points behind the league leaders right now, or like
Right.
something ridiculous. So the fact that we're only 10 points off, I mean, means that we can go, if we can somehow go on a winning streak of 5, 6 games, whatever. I mean, I know that's far fetched. We'll definitely be back in contention
Into the
mathematically
mix.
for
Right.
the Champions League places. And I mean, it just depends on how much of this season we can salvage. So
Right.
a
Right.
lot remains
Right.
to be seen. But yeah, let's move on to the big one
To the
now from
big
the
one.
weekend.
Yep. So Liverpool United, honestly, like it kind of the way the game started, it went as I would have expected. Like Liverpool really came at us, and I would say they dominated the first half. I think they had 60 something percent possession. And for all the negatives about Liverpool at the moment, they still move the ball really well. The system works really well. Like it was tough for us to get near them in midfield. They kind of had us camped in our own half during the first half. We obviously went with a defensive team, which I would agree with. We went with McFred in midfield, shielding the back four. We had Pogba on
And
the right.
Pogba.
And Pogba on the right, though, he was supposed to track Andy Robertson as because he attacks a lot. That fullback, and then on the left we had Martial, who was tracking back Trent. He did a lot of hard work there to make sure we keep Trent quiet, and then we went with Rashford up top. The plan there, and obviously Bruno at number 10. The plan there was that they have two weak They have two central midfielders playing at centre back, Henderson and Fabinho. And Fabinho was excellent. Like he was phenomenal the whole game. But we thought we could use Rashford's pace to get in behind and hit them on the break. Um, so anyway, the first half kind of went how, as you would expect, Liverpool on top. But second half, honestly, we really grew into the game, and we had the better chances. Klopp, I know, was complaining about how defensive United were, but I think that's how you play at Anfield. Like even Carragher.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you can't blame Ollie for the way he set his team up. I mean, the fact is you guys were in the game. I mean, you guys could have won that game, and the fact is you came away with the result that you guys probably would have wanted. So
Wanted, right?
you can't
Exactly.
complain in terms of the way he's done it. I mean, I feel like the guys. I mean, all the Ollie outs. I mean, really need to take a step back if they're thinking that they were
It
too negative, and I mean that's absolutely ridiculous because
is, yeah.
I mean you
Yeah.
come away from Anfield with a point, you still maintain that, and I think at the end of it you could tell from the way Liverpool were playing, it was also a game that they towards the end they weren't peppering down United. They knew they could not
We
afford to
in the
afford to lose
last
that game.
in the last 10,
No,
15
but Liverpool
minutes,
was scared. I mean, Liverpool. I mean, even though United, I mean, they were scared in terms of the fact that they knew if they lose that game, that's 6 points off the top. So I think Liverpool were
right,
pretty content as well coming away with the point, and because they knew that United were going to have chances on the counter. They did. I mean,
right.
Rashford. I mean, I don't know why he didn't feed Cavani there.
And exactly, like that was so frustrating. I mean, he's as good as he's been, and as much as he's improved in the past couple of years and stuff. Like his decision making in the final third is really poor still. Like you just never know what he's gonna do. He could score a screamer, he could play a phenomenal pass, or he could just not play the simple pass. He is still too selfish in the final third, and I can assure
Yeah, he
you,
loves
like
he
if
loves feeding homeless kids, but he hates feeding Cavani. So
one, I gotta give you that. But yeah, he hates beating his teammates at times, and which is frustrating. Like on the other hand, if it was Martial, he would have definitely passed the ball there. He's just a little bit more composed, but we'd taken him off earlier. But yeah, coming back to that point about the last 10, 15 minutes, right? Honestly, we had the best chances. We missed two sitters, Fernandez and Pogba could easily have put that game to bed for us, but it was one of those days where the keeper made two good saves and we didn't come away with all 3 points. And honestly, like if you told me before the match, like here's a point, I would, snap your hand off for that. I think most teams going to Anfield would accept a point. This team hasn't lost at Anfield since 2017, Liverpool. So going,
yeah,
going there and getting a point is more than good enough. And back to the top, we're top of the table, and happy
no,
day.
Leicester are top, mate.
Now,
Check
but
your
with a game in
stats.
hand, yeah, I mean, we were top
Yeah, I
yesterday
mean that way,
before
that way,
that
that way,
game.
City fans would say they were top when you guys were top because they had a game in hand on you. So
Right. So today, let's see, right? We play Fulham. We'll be hopefully be top by the end of today. So, we're in the mix. And honestly, as a United fan, that's all I can ask for at the moment. I think Ollie's done a phenomenal job to get us to a point where we're still in talks for a title race. We're still in that talk, and we haven't been in this situation in many years.
yeah, the thing is,
So yeah.
I mean, everything changes so quickly. I mean, like I think a couple of weeks ago, you were already out after United lost to Leipzig, and I
After
guess
Leipzig, yeah, I wasn't like Ollie out. I still wanted to give him time, right? Because he's done enough good things. But it was after the Leipzig game, we had the City game and we drew 0-0 at home and we were super defensive. And at that point, I was like, I don't know, like this is just not the United way. Even against Leipzig, we had five at the back and like we were just so defensive that game and it didn't work out at all. And I was like, I don't know if he's the right man to really take us forward. I
mm,
think a lot of United fans at that moment were really questioning him, but the way he's turned it around again is just ridiculous. We're on a phenomenal run right now. We're the informed team along with City. So you gotta give him credit where it's due. I think maybe tactically he may not be a Klopp or a Pep or any of those top managers yet, but his man management is phenomenal. Look at how he's handled Pogba, right? Like everyone would have thought after his agent came out with those ridiculous comments about Pogba's going to leave. He's leaving this summer, blah, blah, blah. And all the pundits, the fans were like, he should never play a game again for United. And somehow Ollie's managed to get him back, get his head down, and Pogba's playing really well. He's one of our best players now. So he manages to keep the squad happy. Ollie, like that's one of his big pluses. If you notice, there's harmony in this team now. We seem to be together again. We seem to be a unit, and it's us against the world again, which just hasn't been the case. Like when Mourinho was in charge, if you remember, how many internal problems did we have? You know what I mean? Even with Arteta, it's not like he's managed that squad harmony. I think there were rumors a couple of months ago, at least, that some of the senior players were unhappy, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I guess he has. I mean, obviously, like for Arteta, everything that he's done and everything that's like the fact that his fortunes have turned for him is because of like a forced situation. I mean, I remember the Chelsea game is when everything started to turn, and he was forced to bring in Emil Smith Rowe
right,
because of the COVID situation to Willian. I mean, who knows if Emil Smith Rowe would have even been in the team if it wasn't down to that. I mean, there was a lot of players out there. I think um, that's why I think Emil Smith Rowe came in, and then he impressed, and then he stuck in the team, and um, so yeah, I mean, before that, it didn't look like Arteta was really messing with the senior players. I mean, Willian wasn't
right.
getting
See, there
dropped
was a
for
lot of
anything.
favoritism, right? There was a lot of favoritism,
Yeah,
but
and obviously he wasn't. He claimed that he was doing everything in a very fair way, but I don't think.
that was
I
the
mean,
case.
his the way things were handled suggested otherwise. So
Right. So yeah, anyway, so I think Ollie's done a really good job. I think there are no Ollie outers anymore. I don't think you have a valid argument for Ollie out anymore. I think you have to wait till the end of the season and see where we end up. But the way the season is, like you mentioned, like honestly, if we go on a bad run, everything could change. You could be out of the top four in a matter of 3 weeks. So
yeah,
like
things
that's why
change
I think
fast.
just keep your head down. And for this is for United, we need to just keep our head down and just keep picking up the points and doing the business. And we'll see
Yeah,
where we're at the end of the season.
yeah. I just want to give a quick shout out to Mesut Ozil. I mean, the way he left.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
gone
it was
finally.
just sad. I mean, I still remember like when we signed him in 2013. I mean, the scenes outside the Emirates. I mean, it was like we just won a trophy, like the Champions League or something. I mean,
Mhm.
he was the one player that when we signed that, like the Arsenal faithful really thought like we were going to get back to. I mean, that's what we had been promised for all those years after moving to the Emirates, like world
Mm.
class players. And Ozil was the first world class player we'd really signed, and I mean, he did. I mean, he won, ended up helped us end our trophy drought that year.
Would you say
So
it
we
worked
can't.
out for him in the end, or no? Would you call him a hit?
I mean, obviously now it's best for both parties because I mean he needs to play. I mean, I would have loved to see him play this year. I mean, I feel like we could still use a player like like
100%, you
Ozil.
could 100%.
I mean, obviously he wasn't a big. He didn't like turn up for the big games, but I mean, I would play him against every other team below us in the league,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I loved him. I mean, he's one of those players who I'm still going to be tuning in to watch his highlights when he leaves because I mean, players like him, Santi, I mean, they used to just they epitomize the way the game should be played, and they
Right.
epitomized. I mean, he was truly Arsene Wenger's man. I mean,
Mm.
so I mean, with him leaving, it feels like the whole Wenger era is like now everything
Now it's ending. I mean, which is a
is
good
all
thing
done.
also
Yeah.
in a way. It's time to move on,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, but just from a sentimental perspective, more and the fact that he didn't get a send off. I
Right.
mean, it just ended really badly. I mean, because at the end of the day, I mean, he was a great servant for the club. He'd really like embraced the culture of Arsenal and North
He did
London,
love
and
Arsenal for sure. I mean, he has his haters
yeah,
though. There are a lot of Arsenal fans that don't rate him.
yeah,
There
and
are
I mean, he
quite a
was a
few.
no nonsense kind of player. I mean, he would just do his talking on the pitch. He wasn't like a very vocal player. He wasn't like he wouldn't.
Mm.
I mean, that's what I just loved about him. He would get his head down and he would just play. And I mean, he was just an absolute like genius when he wanted to be. I mean, like,
Right.
I don't think we'll ever see an Arsenal player as gifted as him and probably Dennis Bergkamp ever again at the club. So
Right. Right.
farewell
Right.
to Masood, and yeah, wish him all the best.
Okay. Okay. All right. Sounds good. So I guess that's all for today's episode, and we'll be back again next week to discuss. I think it's going to be FA this week's fixtures. Yeah, we'll be back again. So guys, tune in. Like, share, and comment, and let us know what else you want us to